Hola, hola amigos, muy buenos días. Gracias por estar con nosotros en su programa Café con Leche, la voz de los latinos en América. Estamos transmitiendo desde Hermosa 1470 AM 96.9 FM, también en Facebook Live. Gracias por estar con nosotros. Tenemos, como todos los jueves a esta hora, la participación de Thomas Elias. Él es un analista político que escribe una columna también en el periódico del Antelope Valley Press 2 veces a la semana y en muchos otros periódicos de California, creo que más de 90 periódicos. Vamos a darle la bienvenida. Good morning, Tom. How are you?
I'm very good. But, we have, as you stated, we have problems in California. We have drought, we have fires, we have crises all over the place. And you wonder what that's going to do. I can't help wondering what that's going to do to the recall election. How much of the crises that we have right now will people blame on Governor Newsom? And if they do blame it on Governor Newsom, then he's toast.
Well, okay. Nos está hablando de los problemas que actualmente está confrontando el estado de California, como la sequía, los incendios, y dice, yo me pregunto qué tanto va a incidir en el esfuerzo del recall para remover al gobernador Newsom de su poder, y dice, yo me pregunto qué tanto la gente va a pensar que es culpa de él y que entonces eso pueda afectar que se quede en el puesto. But do you know, if we are so many Democrats, do you think that we are going to allow that? Because we understand exactly, and we see what could happen with a Republican governor, many of them supported by Trump. It's like if we, at least that we are very, very dummy. We don't.
Well, there are two things here. First of all, we know there's another election a year from now. Mm-hmm. So if you get a Republican governor, you'd have a chance to vote him out in another year. And so that's one thing. And the second thing is that, if people blame someone for the big problems they're suffering, then it doesn't matter what the party designation is. Democrats don't all vote Democratic. If they did, there would never be a Republican elected for anything in this state or even in the country. Democrats outnumber Republicans all across the country, but Republicans get elected all over. And that's one of the reasons for it is that Democrats don't all vote, and they don't all vote for Democrats when they do vote.
And do you know, but in the other hand, I read I can't remember where, but that people is very optimistic right now for the situation. They feel better than a few years ago. Don't you think that is going to influence also the opinion?
It depends on who you talk to. There's a lot of homeowners that feel threatened by some of the legislation that they know that Newsom would sign if it passes the legislature. Things like SB 10 that would allow up to 14 units of housing on any single-family home lot, like in the Antelope Valley where the houses are one to a lot, pretty much. Mm-hmm. You could have 14 on that one lot, 14 units. So you could have like a 3-story building where there's one house right now, and it could be anywhere in California that way. All you need is a city council vote, even if the people of the town have voted against that kind of growth and that kind of density in a local initiative. SB 10 would overturn that, and Newsom has promised to sign that bill. Mm-hmm. And he's also promised to sign SB 9, which would all but eliminate R1 zoning anywhere in California. And it's a Republican governor is likely to veto bills like that, and there's a lot of people that are registered Democrats that want to see those bills vetoed because it threatens their way of life.
Bueno, let me translate before mm-hmm. I forget. Bueno, sure. le estaba yo diciendo, ¿cómo crees que vamos a no defender al gobernador Newsom cuando somos la mayoría de demócratas aquí y pues definitivamente no queremos un gobernador que sea del grupo de Donald Trump y que venga aquí a arruinar las cosas. Y dice, bueno, lo que pasa es que hay mucha gente que no está muy contenta, que han sido afectados en sus intereses, y dice, y los demócratas no siempre votan demócrata, a veces votan republicano, dice, o a veces no salen a votar, entonces por eso dice, si no, porque en el país hay más demócratas que republicanos, pero todavía los republicanos están ahí, porque a veces los demócratas votan por republicanos. Y sobre todo ahora que tenemos dos propuestas de ley, una del Senado, el bill número 10, donde se permite la construcción de 14 unidades de vivienda en lo que es solamente una casa. Por ejemplo, en un lote de una casa aquí del Valle del Antílope se podrían entonces en el mismo terreno de esa casa construir unidades por ejemplo, de un edificio de 3 pisos que pueda dar cabida a 14 lugares para vivir. También hay otro bill que tampoco les gusta, que es el bill del Senado número 9, que se refiere al zoning. Dice, así es que si se pone a un republicano en estos meses hasta la nueva elección, y dice, pues es posible que se pueda remover al republicano. Sin embargo, los gobernadores republicanos siempre hacen un veto, o sea que no permiten que este tipo de leyes como las que se están proponiendo pasen, y el gobernador Governor Newsom ya dijo que las va a firmar, por lo menos la SB10. Okay, now you can continue, please.
Sure. But there's one big thing that Newsom can do to protect himself. First of all, Newsom has about $30 million in the bank, and there's only about another month in which to spend that money, because you have to understand that everybody in California is going to every registered voter is going to get a mail ballot, just like they do in any other election. Mm-hmm. Those will be going out in about 2 or 3 weeks. And once they go out, people will start to vote. And that means that Newsom has to spend some money, and he has to spend the money now. And I don't know, frankly, why he hasn't spent the money yet. But what he needs to do is put the message out that this is basically a contest between him and Trump. If he can show, and it is accurate, would be accurate, that the major Republicans in this race are essentially Trump people, and if he can make this a contest between him and Trump, then he wins hands down in California, where Trump has lost by over 3 million votes in each of the last 2 presidential elections. So if he can do this, and he has plenty of money to put out that message, it would be a correct message, because you have John Cox, the leading candidates to replace Newsom right now are John Cox, a businessman from San Diego County, who Newsom defeated by a 62 to 38% margin 3 years ago. Then you have Kevin Faulconer, the former mayor of San Diego, and you have the third leading candidate is probably Larry Elder, the talk show host from KABC, and now he does a lot of work for Fox nationally. And then the fourth candidate, who I don't think will draw many votes, is Caitlyn Jenner, the transgender former Olympic decathlon champion, who used to be known as Bruce Jenner. But it's hard for me to believe that even Republicans would vote for Caitlyn Jenner, because they generally oppose anything transgender. They don't want transgenders using bathrooms of the sex they think they are. They don't want transgender people competing in sports with other women. Even if they've had all the hormone treatment and so on, they just think that the remnants of their male identities, their male bodies, would make them stronger than the women they'd be competing against, and that would be unfair. So Republicans don't basically like transgender people, and yet here you have a transgender with Trump people running her campaign. People that work for Trump are running her campaign. It isn't getting very far right now. Then there's Elder, who, when he was a talk show host, he put on his show and promoted people that went on to become big figures in the Trump administration, like Stephen Miller, who wrote all
Oh,
the
yeah.
immigration policies for Trump, was a guest when he was already a high school kid, only a high school kid. He was on Larry Elder's show every week. And Elder promoted all these people before there was Trump. And they went on to be big Trump people. And then you have Kevin Faulconer, who talks about how he voted for Trump, and talks and you can see pictures of him in the Oval Office with Trump, smiling and grinning and shaking hands with Trump. And then you have Cox, who was endorsed by Trump in the last election very enthusiastically. So there's a lot of material for campaign ads if Newsom wants to make this whole recall about Trump. And that's what he needs to do in order to survive.
Okay, let me translate. Dice que ahorita
Okay.
el gobernador Newsom tiene aproximadamente 30 millones de dólares en el banco y que las boletas para votar por este recall van a salir en 2 o 3 semanas. Y que debemos de entender que todos los candidatos que están corriendo por el Partido Republicano son candidatos que que el presidente Trump apoya. Dice, así es que yo creo que el gobernador Newsom debería de pasar este mensaje para que la gente entienda quiénes son los que están corriendo. Así es que dice, hay candidatos como John Cox de San Diego, que perdió en la elección pasada contra el gobernador Newsom con un margen de 62 a 28%. Dice, hay otro candidato que se llama Kevin Faulconer, que también perdió, pero que tiene incluso fotografías tomadas con el presidente Trump. Larry Elder, que es un comentarista que ha promovido gente que después fue parte del gabinete del presidente Trump, dice, como Miller, el muchacho ese que en ese entonces estaba en high school y aparecía cada semana en el show de Elder, y que por eso se volvió una figura con Trump. Así es que debemos de tener bien claro que si tenemos un gobernador republicano, va a ser un gobernador que está señalado, marcado por Trump. Se nos acabó el tiempo. The time is gone.
Okay.
Tom,
Last thing to say is we're going to have this election soon, and if you want to have any influence at all, you have to vote.
Okay, que tienen que votar
Okay.
si quieren tener un decir en esto. Por favor, que vamos a recibir las boletas por correo. Tenemos que votar para apoyar a nuestro gobernador. Vamos a ir un corte. No, ya nos vamos. Vamos.